Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever is appropriate. We are going to explore slope. Students will build on their knowledge of slope and will be able to apply the slope formula. They will also understand the slope of horizontal and vertical lines. So, normally when we talk about slope, we talk about rise over run. Rise being a vertical change and run being a horizontal change. Today, we are going to expand on that. First, anytime we want to find slope, we need 2 good points. And what we mean is we're looking for a place where the line crosses with the little crosshairs that are on the graph. So, for example, one good point here would be 1, 1, and another good point here would be 4, 2. So I'm going to name point 1, 1, 1, and I'm going to name point 2, 4, 2. All right, so in order to find the slope, first thing I could do is rise over run, right? Up 1, right 3, rise over run is my slope. That's option 1. Another option is to look at what we call the slope formula. And it shows you've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you label your points, this is the x coordinate of the first point and the y coordinate of the first point. This is the x coordinate of the second point and the y coordinate of the second point. So when I go to plug these in, I do need to know which one is which. Okay, so y2 was the number 2 minus y1 was the number 1. x2 was the number 4 minus x1, which is also the number 1. You're finding the difference in the y coordinates, which is the up and down, the vertical change, and you're finding the difference in the x coordinates, which is the left to right horizontal change. So your slope is going to be 1 over 3, which is the same answer we got from the graph. Now, why would I have you do that? Because sometimes you're asked to find the slope between 2 points and you don't have a graph. So this would be your x1, y1. This would be your x2, y2. So in the beginning, you're definitely going to want to label them that way. You're also going to want to write down the slope formula each time for 2 reasons. 1, so you put things in the right place, but 2, so that you practice it and have it memorized. So y2 is 4 minus y1 is a 1 over x2 is a 1 minus x1 is a negative 2. Now notice I put it in parentheses because it's a negative, and I have to do that because I have to remember 1 minus negative 1 is the same as 1 plus a positive, okay? Minus a negative 2, the same as plus a positive 2. So 4 minus 1 is 3, 1 plus 2 is 3, and the slope between those 2 points is a 1. Also using the formula, find the slope of a line that passes through negative 5, 2 and negative 1, 4. So I would go through the same process. I would say x1, y1, x2, y2. Now, it actually doesn't matter which one you label as 1 and 2. So if for some reason it was easier to label the second one as 0.1, x1, y1, and this one as x2, y2, feel free if it makes your subtraction easier. So the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'm just going to pull the numbers. y2 is 4, y1 is 2, x2 is negative 1, minus x1 is negative 5. I'm going to rewrite if I have to. Negative 1 minus a negative 5 becomes plus a positive 5. 4 take away 2. Negative 1 plus 5, I have more positives than negatives, so 2/4, and then I have to put that in lowest terms, 1/2. Now we've got horizontal lines and vertical lines, and that was the other thing that it said at the very beginning. So what is the slope of a horizontal line versus a vertical line? So we can use our slope formula to prove what these answers are because they're the same no matter what horizontal line you're looking at. So if I pick 2 good points, so let's say I pick 1, 2, and let's say I pick 4, 2. So now I have 2 points that are on the line. And if I pick 1, 2, and I pick 4, 2, I am going to label those as my x1, y1, x2, y2. Now you could have obviously labeled that over here. I just wrote kind of small. So the slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The y change up and down is 2 minus 2. Doesn't that make sense? There is no y change. This line is not going up and down. It's only going side to side. And then I would have to do 4 minus 1. So it would be 0 over 3, or just a slope of 0. Any horizontal line, because it does not go up and down, is going to have the same thing. The change in y is always going to be 0, making a horizontal line always have a slope of 0. So all horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Vertical lines. Now, if I pick two good points, so let's say I pick negative 3, 1 and negative 3, 4. So if I write those down just to make it easier to label them, negative 3, 4 and negative 3, 1. And then I find the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 1 take away 4 over negative 3 minus negative 3. Now you can rewrite this, right? You could say negative 3 plus 3, or you could say if I have negative 3 and I take away negative 3, that's clearly 0. I would end up with negative 3 over 0. Now, you can't divide by 0. Dividing by 0 is not allowed. It's not something that we can physically do. If you try typing it into a calculator, the calculator has a fit. So negative 3 divided by 0 is undefined, meaning we cannot define what negative 3 divided by 0 is worth. All vertical lines have a slope that is undefined. So you would say m equals undefined. Graph the following equations below. So if we want to graph these equations, we need to look at them and say, okay, well, what do they mean? What does x equals 3 mean? It means it crosses the x-axis at 3. Okay, so if it crosses the x-axis at 3, I'm going to say here's the x-axis, here's 3, right here. So if I'm crossing the x-axis at 3, I am going to be what kind of line? Vertical. So this is going to be a vertical line. So y equals negative 2 is the next one. So if you're going to take a guess, that means it crosses the y-axis at negative 2. So I'm going to look for the y-axis, I'm going to look for negative 2, and then I'm going to draw a line that crosses the y-axis at negative 2. So that is going to be a horizontal line. So anytime we see these, we can say very quickly and easily, without having to do a lot of thinking, y equals 6. Okay, it crosses the y-axis at 6, and I'm going to draw a line that crosses the y-axis at 6. And last but not least, if I have x equals negative 5 on the x-axis, I'm going to go through negative 5, so I'm going to draw a line that crosses the x-axis at negative 5, making it vertical. So if you literally process that out loud, it makes it really easy to draw the graph. So vertical lines have equations that are x equals a number. So you'll notice x equals a number came out vertical, and the top one, x equals a number, came out vertical. Horizontal lines have equations that are y equals a number. So the 2 in the middle here, y equals a number, came out horizontal.